Good morning, Jennifer. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So what brings you in this morning?
I just kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit. I get really anxious and have some really bad anxiety about speaking in front of a good bit of people, and
Mhm.
it doesn't even have to be a large group. It could be like five or more people. And in the new job that I've taken on, like I need to be able to do this, whether it's at a staff meeting or a board meeting or something like that. I have to report on what my department is doing and has been doing. And so I'm at the table with all of these higher up people in my agency, and I just find it very difficult to do that. And I almost go into a full fledged panic attack before my turn to speak because I'm just so scared um, of publicly speaking in front of people.
Okay, so from what I'm understanding is that you're having some anxieties about speaking in front of people, whether it's a small group or a large group, and now you've taken on new responsibility where this is something that you're going to have to do on a continuing basis. That
Right.
sounds about right. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. And so I just get very sweaty and clammy even going into the meeting because I know
Hmm.
that at some point during the meeting I'm going to have to present or speak. And so I'm already nervous and anxious going to the meeting. And when I know it's getting closer to my time to speak, I really almost go into like a full panic attack, and I just get super just overwhelmed with anxiety. I just get hot and just really
Hmm.
nervous. And so I just kind of want to be able to work through that and hopefully get to a point where I'm comfortable and not having a panic attack in the meeting, because that's kind of hard too, is that I'm having all these emotional reactions and nobody around me realizes that it's happening. So I'm trying to keep it under control from that being evident. I don't want it to look like I can't do my job.
Okay.
So I'm scared of letting other people see that too.
Right. So you feel have anxiety to the point where you go into sweats, panic attacks. No one sees this, but it's clear to you that you're feeling some kind of emotion, nervousness, that kind of thing prior to you speaking in front of your peers um,
Absolutely.
during the meetings. Um, do you feel any other emotions during that time before the meeting? Is everyone pretty much colleagues of yours? Or are there supervisors involved? Or what type of people are you working with or talking to during your meetings?
So my supervisor is in these meetings. Sometimes his supervisor, it just depends. If we're in like a board meeting, it will be his supervisor as well, who is the head of our agency. And just a regular staff meeting, it's him who's my supervisor and other colleagues who are all at the same level I am. We're all managers of departments. He just My supervisor manages a good bit of departments, so it's probably about six or seven of us in a staff meeting. And so they are all colleagues plus my supervisor. And I don't have any physical reactions other than the sweaty and clamminess that I
Hmm.
feel like on my hands and things. I just get really overwhelmed. I guess I don't want to come across like I don't know what I'm talking about, even though I'm very confident in my job and I've been doing it for a long time. So I
Hmm.
know the material well. It's not that I
Hmm.
don't know it. It's just I get to the point where I feel like I'm going to sound like I don't know it, or in my anxiousness of all this overwhelming thoughts that I have going on, sometimes I just forget what I need to say because I'm
Hmm.
concentrating on my emotions instead of just the material I need to cover.
Okay, so let's explore that a little bit further. So, where did you start beginning to see that you felt uncomfortable talking in front of people? Do you feel the same way toward your family members, or is it just in certain settings where you feel uncomfortable speaking in front of others?
So far, it has just been in like a work setting.
Hmm.
I'm able to speak in front of my family. I speak sometimes. I'm the treasurer at my church, so sometimes I have to get in front of the congregation and present our treasure of reports. And at first I was a little nervous about that, but never like I am in a work setting. So it just tends to be there. And I noticed a couple years back when I was first starting out in my career, I wasn't even in a big setting. I was probably in an office and it was only 3 of us there, although one guy was very high ranked inside the agency, and he had asked a question and I knew the answer, but I don't know if it's because of his position in the agency and him directly asking me the question. I knew the answer and just completely just gave him the wrong information.
Mhm.
And so I think that as a result of that, I carry that with me and feel like I'm going to always do the same thing.
Okay. So it sounds like I'm hearing when you first started your career in this position and you've had to speak in front of authoritative figures. It sounds like you're a little bit intimidated, maybe, or just feel nervous that you're not going to present the right information to these individuals.
Yes, and actually that you use the word intimidated, I think that's a good word. I think like thinking back on it, because he was of such authority position, maybe that is what it is. Maybe it's the intimidated by maybe people above me or my direct supervisor. So I think that's a good reflection.
Okay. So it sounds like you're experiencing emotions of not feeling like you're going to give the right answer, or um, you know what you're talking about, you know your job. Did you feel the same way when you first started in your career, that you had the right information available to present to your supervisor or that that figure?
I didn't. No, I didn't. That didn't happen until the one day that I was telling you about, where I just gave him the wrong answer. And like I said, I just don't know why I did that. I knew the
Mm-hmm.
answer.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. And like I said, maybe I got intimidated or was just really nervous about his rank in the agency talking to me, and I just stumbled. But no, before
Okay.
that I was completely fine. And if I'm talking to a colleague of mine one on one and we're having a conversation and she's asking me questions, I can answer those no problem. I don't have the same reaction or emotion. It just seems to be more or less when I have to get in these staff meetings or board meetings and report, my
Okay.
material.
Okay. So it sounds like this occurs more in a formal setting as opposed to a more casual setting in the
Yes,
workplace.
yes.
Okay. All righty. So um, it sounds like it's just a matter of becoming a little bit more comfortable in a more formal setting, and as opposed to a more casual setting, and maybe being able to transfer that ability to have a conversation or talk about any work related matter in that casual setting, and just transferring that over to your formal setting, such as a board meeting or staff meeting.
Sure, sure. That sounds accurate.
Okay. So I guess what I would like to do with you is kind of use an approach where we use cognitive behavior therapy, and we try to look at the fear or the concern that you have and channel that into a different and a more positive light. So there is hope for, public speaking, and being able to do that in your formal setting at work.
Well, good.
Um,
That would be great. I
yeah.
just really, really want to get over this.
Hmm.
Because these situations are going to become more frequent as I climb the ladder in my career, and I really just don't want to have this feeling of anxiety anymore. I want to appear
Hmm.
confident and be looked at as a leader and not someone who cannot perform.
And I think you will get to that point where you feel more comfortable with that, because it sounds like you're doing a great job um, at your workplace. You know the information. You have a wealth of knowledge. It's just conveying that information to others.
Right.
Um, yeah. So what I would like to start out with is maybe you talking about how you feel in that environment when you come to a meeting, and just kind of writing those thoughts down.
Okay.
And then we can look at that and explore those a little bit more further. Um, and um, and like you said, you talked with your supervisor at that very first meeting. You knew the answer, but for some reason, the incorrect answer came out, even though you knew the right answer. And so we want to write down those kind of feelings. To what were you feeling after you responded to your supervisor incorrectly, as opposed to, no, you knew the answer, but for some reason you just couldn't convey that answer to the supervisor.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I will be glad to write those down. Just like I said, when that happened with him, I just couldn't believe that I had done that. It was
Okay.
like a feeling of almost disbelief, and then I was disappointed in myself because I just didn't understand why I had did that, and I knew I could have. I knew it, so I was just really disappointed in myself that I
Mhm.
messed that up.
Right. And do you think that that was the starting point for where all, in your future meetings, that kind of affected you then from that point on when you met with, your other colleagues and other managers?
I really do. I feel
Mhm.
like had I not done that or had that not happened, I would be a little bit more confident in myself and my ability to speak in front of authoritative figures.
Okay. And do you ever find a time where that hasn't happened, or you've gone into a meeting and you were able to convey the message that you did want to convey to your colleagues and managers?
Yes. So I am able to convey the information, and that does happen. And there's been times when I'm a little less anxious, not at panic attack level. I'm still always very anxious and nervous going into any of these meetings. But it doesn't get to the panic attack level every time. So in situations where I find that it's easier to do that is maybe, people can't attend our staff meeting, so you don't have all 6 or 7 of us there. Or if my supervisor's out for that meeting, he's off and we still go on with the meeting, it's easier to convey that information then. So
Okay.
it just depends on, I guess, maybe who's there and who's not there and how big the group is.
Okay. Okay. So that's great that you're able to go into a meeting setting and still convey that information that you need to, or give your report during the meeting. And it just sounds like when the supervisors are not there, then you're able to talk more freely. You're a little bit more comfortable in that setting, as opposed to when the supervisors are there.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. So what we want to do is just kind of convey all of that in writing. You can write a poem, you can do whatever makes you feel comfortable when you journal your thoughts.
Okay.
And then we want to look at maybe exploring you actually getting in a setting where you actually make a report in front of your supervisor and get to that point where we kind of expose you to where you actually do that.
Okay. Okay, that
Um,
sounds
yeah, and we can look at, maybe as opposed to having all the supervisors, maybe just the one supervisor where you have an opportunity to talk to the one supervisor, maybe one-on-one at first, and then maybe adding 2 or 3 more people in that environment until you feel comfortable.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, that that in itself makes me a little anxious, but I'm excited to get there. I really want to get over this
Yeah.
fear of mine, so I'm willing to do whatever we need to do to help myself out, and that sounds attainable. So,
Yeah. And we'll take it slow. So, once you journal your thoughts and we talk about those, maybe we'll start off with just a couple of your colleagues, and then maybe you setting up a meeting with your colleagues and your supervisor, and then getting you to that point where you feel comfortable where you can be in the meeting with more than one supervisor at a time.
okay, that sounds completely doable.
Okay. I mean,
I'll get
it's,
there.
yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely will get there. So there is hope um, for something like this, and I think you'll get there.
Great. Well, I'm excited. I am looking forward to working through the process and getting rid of this anxiety over speaking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what happens over the next week. Kind of journal your thoughts when you're in that setting. because you probably already have meetings set up for this week coming up anyway. And
Right.
so, yeah, kind of journal your thoughts when it happens, how you feel, how does it make it feel, how it makes it feel physically as well as emotionally.
Okay, I can do that.
And then, okay, okay. Well, sounds good. And it was good talking with you this morning.
It was good talking to you as well. Thank you. And I look forward
Sure.
to meeting with you next week.
Sounds good.
All right.